And welcome to Zoom with Czarny. I'm Dustin Czarny, Democratic Elections Commissioner for Onondaga County. And today is Thursday, April 6th. And I am going to do an interview with Onondaga County's Comptroller Marty Masterpole. He's been the comptroller for the last, I think this is his fourth year. He was elected in 2019 and is one of the highest elected Democratic people in county government and also in Onondaga County at all. He's done a great job. I think and he's running for re-election this year. This kicks off my interview series with candidates for the general election ballot. That will be most of my interviews going from now until November will be with candidates that are on the ballot this fall. So you get to know all these people that are running for office asking for your vote. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for my interview with Marty Masterpole. Enjoy. And we're back, and I'm very happy to have my good friend, Marty Masterpole. I've known Marty for almost 20 years now, when he was a city councilor and when he was a county legislator, and, of course, when he ran for city auditor and was city auditor and also county comptroller. He's been so generous with his time with us. He's come on once a year since he's been in there, but he is up for re-election this year. Marty, thanks for coming back on Zoom with Czarny.
Thank you, Dustin. Actually, I think it's been over 20 years. You said almost. If I remember, it was the Matt Driscoll election of 2001.
That's 22 years.
So
yeah, that's when we met. Yeah,
22 years ago, coming up on. Seems like yesterday.
It seems like yesterday. Yeah. Well, I was much younger then.
I was the same age.
Well, Marty, I mentioned that you're the current county comptroller, and before we get into that and your reelection, there's always new people that watch this program, maybe watching it for the first time. Tell us a little bit about Marty. Who's Marty Masterpole and what's your background?
So as you mentioned, Dustin, I've been elected since 2001. I spent 4 years on the common council first, the second district councilor. Went to the Onondaga County legislature for 4 years. Decided I wanted to head back to City Hall. So I, after 4 years in the ledge, the city auditor's position was vacant by term limits because Phil Latessa was term limited out. So I ran for auditor. I was then term limited out 8 years as auditor and decided to run for county comptroller. Then, so the rest is history. 4 years ago, we had what I'd love to call a monumental victory. I was the first Democrat elected into this position, and I've enjoyed it. My wife and I live in Tip Hill. We have since 2000, I've been there 23 years. We have 2 children. Michael's a junior in high school. Molly's in 8th grade. Very active with them with sports and Irish dancing and all that stuff that I'm sure a lot of your viewers see me or my wife post on social media. And really maybe most proud, my wife is a city school teacher at Corcoran High School. She's the International and Baccalaureate math teacher at Corcoran, and she's been there over 20 years. So proud of what I've done, where I've been, my family, my friends, my kids. We're in a good spot at the moment.
Yeah, your wife was a teacher of my daughter, who was going to Corcoran. Again, about 14 years ago now. Your wife taught my daughter math, and that was hard for your wife, I think. But
it's hard for my wife living with me too. So
there's that too. Yeah,
we all have our crosses to bear, as they say.
So, Marty, you are the Onondaga County Comptroller, and you said it was a substantial victory, and you're kind of lowballing that. You were at the time the only Democratic countywide elected in county government in a generation. It had been quite a long time. And of course, last year we have Toby Shelley joining you, which is great, getting people to join county government. The Democrats to win. That's always good. But you kind of broke that barrier in 2019. Tell us what it was like, to make history like that, and what do you think? What led to your success and why did the people put you in this place, in this
It
position?
was a perfect storm. My opponent was appointed. Matt Bidnell, he hadn't been elected yet. He was appointed because Comptroller Antonacci became state senator at the time. And so it created a vacancy, and County Executive McMahon appointed Matt. So Matt didn't have the name ID that I had, obviously being in county government or being in government for 20 years versus someone who hadn't run before. Name ID certainly played a factor. I had experience, it's not, I ran with the moniker experience matters. It wasn't just somebody coming in that couldn't do the job. I think the voters realized from my past experience I could do the job. And I think we ran a good campaign. I had a good campaign staff team. Certainly Tony Melavenda at the top of the ticket helped me a lot. He kept the county executive very busy with his investment into his campaign, but really it was an investment into my campaign, because anytime you're keeping the top of the ticket busy and getting Democrats out, that certainly happened. And you helped, Dustin. You know that as well. By accident, you helped.
Well, I, I remember, but that was I think that was a cherry on top. You won that race.
We had everything going in the right direction, but anytime an opponent slips off, if you will, or I didn't even have to point it out. The media was relentless on my opponent, and I was the benefactor of that. We've had issues, or not issues, instances where the media hasn't been so kind to me, and that happens in this business. You have to know, but he had a slip up, and I think we worked hard, and there you go. It was hard work. Look, a lot of parades and festivals, and running like you have nothing to lose and everything to gain makes it easier. When I had no pressure on me. If I did win, it was going to be a monumental victory. If I lost, I was supposed to. So that made it easier. Fairs, festivals, chicken barbecues, pancake breakfast, you name it. We did all those things, and it was fun. It was a fun campaign, but it's a big county out there. I remember during the campaign, I had an event down in Fabius. It was like a chicken barbecue or something. It was in the fall. And then I went to the Liverpool CNS football game the same night, which was at CNS. Well, there's no good way to get from the southern tip of the county to the northern tip of the county. 81 you can, but to get from Fabius over to 81 is a bit of a shag too. So it's a big county. It was almost an hour trip, and I thought, wow, do I know what I'm getting myself into here? But it's been great from that point forward. We got to win, and the job has been going well.
Yeah, so let's talk about the job. Last 4 years has not been uneventful. We've had COVID. Just you were 3 months into the new job, and then all of a sudden facing one of the biggest fiscal crises that we could, and of course the pandemic, and not just about lives and health, which of course was the top, but it was also a fiscal crisis for the county as well. What was that like? How were you able? What was your office able to do for the county during that pandemic?
It was tough, and when I came in, and I had some staff meetings. I'm walking into a staff full of people who pretty much supported my opponent. So I walking in the lion's den as I thought, although my staff's been great, and but I came in and I'm like, look, there was a couple, I work from home. I work some time on the weekends. I do this or that, and not anymore. We work our hours we work. There's no need to work from home. We're an in-office operation, all the above. Well, 3 months into the job, throw all that out the window, because now we're all working remotely for a long time, and it was difficult. Follow that up with budget cuts. The county executive came out with I'm drawing a blank on what the budget what they referred to their budget at the time, that but basically cut cut costs and services and staff and everything across county departments, mine included. So we had, if there was a vacancy or a retirement or whatever the case may be, don't fill it. We it was a contingency. It was a contingency budget at the time. So it was tough. And And then follow it up by, okay, we want to get audits out the door. We have to issue payroll to everybody who's working remotely. So signing in and signing out was non-traditional. People are on administrative pay. People are getting COVID, and then COVID isn't counting towards sick time, which is accrued time. I mean, every single thing that COVID touched, obviously it hit the health department and all the departments of county government, but it touched us a lot too. So it was a challenge, and I'd like to say we're out of it at the time, but there's still people still get COVID. We still have people on COVID sick leave and things. You get your 10 days off, and it's very different than what I had expected.
So, yeah, besides all the challenges with COVID, you're now in the fourth year of your 4-year term. What are some of the what are some of the other accomplishments that you're proud of in your first 4 years?
So I guess very basic and broad is maintaining maintaining the department's balance. We still continue to do audits departmentally. We did a COVID audit, and it was a COVID audit based on the FEMA spending, the federal relief dollars, not American Rescue Plan. There was actually FEMA reimbursement money that came in too for masks and ventilators and hand sanitizer and all those tests and vaccines and all those fun things we were going through at the time. So we did, and I'll say remarkably, and one of the things that I'm proud of county government is it was pretty clean audit. There was, but for a few masks unaccounted for, and nobody was stealing masks. We were giving them away anyways, but I'd say unaccounted for, they probably went to a doctor's office somewhere and wasn't recorded properly. But it was a very clean audit. The county managed the FEMA spending very well. I thought we came through it very well. Thought my staff accounted for it all very well. But then, we're getting into an audit right now that isn't released, but it's a preview. I'll tell you, it's our sewer costs, how we bill for our sewer taxes is a mess, and it's not charged equally, and it's going to be I don't want to say ugly one. They're the truth. We don't make stuff up as we go along. Some auditors do. We do not. It's not going to be a clean one, but that's just the kind of stuff that we've done and my staff has done. Look, I think relative to the Board of Elections, Dustin, I think your Board of Elections employees, poll watchers and stuff are probably happier. The bad news is, I think because of the law, they all became employees. We kind of had them independent contractors, and it was a little sloppy. We made them all county employees, which is what they should have been because they are working for the county. And I think we get them paid quicker. There was folks working on election day and getting paid after New Year's. Now they're getting paid working on election day, and I think they were paid before December 1st, which is how it's supposed to go. So, but there's a lot of little things like that I think we've done well. And it's, my opponent in this race, my upcoming race, is the main criticism, and it's a common one when you're in this job, is haven't done enough audits. Never going to, they want to keep score of audits. I said from day one, we're going to do quality audits over quantity of audits. But then I look back at Comptroller Antonacci's first 3 years of the term before mine, and my first 3 years, because it was what to compare it to. He had like 38 audits, and we did 36. We had none that were challenged or really management response wasn't negative on any of those. So they certainly weren't, I'd say so. Therefore, they were quality.
And 36 audits in the middle of a pandemic when you're all working remotely. I mean,
exactly. Then that's my last point. So we're doing our job. And one of the interesting things about that as well is it's the same staff. We have auditors that I hire off of civil service less. They take the auditor 1, 2, or 3 exam in that regard. And for the most part, it's the exact same people that Comptroller Anthony. We've brought in a few people in because of retirements and the things that you would expect over 4 years. But it's the same people doing the same work in the same amount of time, and they work at their pace, and I think we manage them well. So it's when you hear Marty's not doing enough audits, that's was a criticism from City Hall when I had one auditor, and I'd still fight that fight that we were doing our job there as well. But I'm very proud of the team I have here, most of whom I inherited, and they're really good people and really good staff.
Yeah, I think you've run an office that has not been partisan, has not been political. You've you've tried to work with other departments. You did help the Board of Elections, and that that was an IRS change that we were supposed to have them as employees and not as contractors. And there was a lot of resistance, even from the inspectors, because the way we do. Anytime you do something and you make a change, there's always resistance. But your office helped us work through that, and that's 1,000 people that we had to switch over the way we paid them, within 1 year. So that was tough.
We were following the federal law. What a novelty! It's but we did it because before they were not following the law.
That's right,
which I found interesting.
Unbearable.
I guess it was different. So we've learned a lot from your office about proper payroll upkeep and all of that wasn't being followed before you got in there. And that's what the watchdog is supposed to do. You're supposed to do that. But, we also have some issues in our county that I know you've weighed in on a little bit, but, let's talk about Micron. Micron's coming into Onondaga County. Obviously, we all think that's a great thing, and nobody's thinks that's a bad thing. But what are some of the things that you think that your office will have to adjust for this major infrastructure that is coming into our county over the next 4 to 10 years? Yeah, great question, and I'm not even 100% sure yet because I'm not sure we know what the full Micron is. I know what the promises are, and I'm not pretending that Micron is promising something they're not going to deliver. I believe that they will deliver what they say they are. But over in year 1, what's going to look like, in year 5, what it's going to look like, in year 10, what is it going to look like? Now, in year 10, if there's, what are they saying? 40,000 more employees or residents of the county. I mean, the numbers that are being discussed are crazy. And the infrastructure that has to go to the White Pine site alone. I mean, the county government is spending money like crazy. Obviously, the land acquisition was huge, but you're looking at expanding roads, sewers. Aqua will have to make sure water is there. That's all county government. All those things touch my office in some way, shape, or form. Vendors, contractors, street pavers, all of those folks that will do work on behalf of county government. Those checks go out of my office. We're the final pre-audit approval of vendor payments, et cetera. That'll all, whether it's a paving company, installing sewer lines, doing water work, and so many other things. I mean, advertising, housing development. There will be so many things that have the ability to come through this department. The unknown is how quick, how many, how often, and we're going to have to be fluid and be ready to handle that. My claims folks right now, the ones that pre-audit all the claims, the vendor payments and stuff, they're great. They're all 3 have been here pre me. Actually, I think even one even before Antonacci. So there's been some long staff in that office, and they're busy. They're on top of what they do during the normal course of the day. I mean, we could approve 1,000 vouchers a week, and checks going out to vendors for the simple things, the WB Masons, the copiers, all the above. Then you're going to throw on top of it, all right, now we got to install another 100 miles of sewer and pave 200 miles of road and all this that's associated with it. It's big. It's a big job.
So that's a project that everybody's supporting. We have different visions of how that might come to pass. And you're right. I think nobody believes that like Micron is like a destiny where there's a lot of promises that aren't going to be fulfilled. They believe that Micron is invested in the community. They're showing that they are, and this is going to be a transformational project. But there's different ways of handling that as well. But let's talk about something that maybe there is a little bit more controversy over that may be close to destiny, and that's the aquarium. So the $85 million aquarium, that's been probably one of the biggest controversies over the last year. So, what is you're a legislator, you're an auditor, you're a comptroller, from a fiscal standpoint, what is your stance on the aquarium?
So I did do a op-ed before the legislature voted on this, and my message to the legislature at the time was, let the voters decide. Put this to a permissive referendum, or even we love polls. We love polls, the Seattle poll and campaigns or anything above. Get an idea what the taxpayers want. If you're going to spend $85 million of taxpayers' money, now I know we're representatives. We, the legislature, represented their districts, and they should hypothetically know. But there was a lot of political pressure put on some of these legislators who I know people in their districts didn't want them. Now, do I know whether it was a majority or not? No. So my public opinion at the time was, take it to the voters. Let's find out. Now, from a fiscal responsibility, ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing. If it were such a good idea, the private sector would have been all over it. And the private sector wasn't anywhere near this because the thing is a financial loser. It cannot. Now,
so why are you saying that? Let's talk about that. So
based on now, we see. I'll go right to it. The projections. Let's go to the first. Let's go to 85 million. I'm going to take the county executive's word for it based on the consultants they use. 85 million to build. Let's take them at their word. Usually when you say it's 85 million to build something, oh, it was inflation, and we bid it at this, and it didn't come in, and we had these. So now it's 100 million, but I'm still going to use 85 million because it's their number. They're also using the number of $750,000 in increased tax revenues through room occupancy tax, sales tax, etc., for the aquarium.
So
let's assume they're accurate. So when they say 750, it's probably 400. But let's say that they're correct, and it's 750.
Right.
If they're high projections of 750, and I'm saying high because I'm shooting a dart just like they are. And if we say 85 million is actually the construction cost, it's over 110 years, 113 years to repay return on investment. Anybody that nobody's living 113 years. Nobody's building anything that's 113-year return on investment. No. It's completely crazy. Now, the county executive will say, and okay, help get us Micron, because the Micron wanted to see development, they wanted to see this, all of the above. Okay, if that's accurate, I can stomach it, but it's just from a and our aquarium's nice, the people go to them, of course they are. Yeah, that's great. But from a pure financial analogy, it's the worst idea I've ever heard of.
I like the Micron investment. I love it, actually. I think it's going to be great for our community. To pretend that Micron, a multi-bazillion-dollar company, is making a financial decision on the aquarium is ludicrous at best. I mean, and if you want to make the call that this money is being used for a service that the community will use, okay, like I was for that for the amphitheater. I was for the amphitheater. That was that's not been a money maker. That's actually lost money too.
And let me backtrack. Actually, the amphitheater this year did make money. 2020.
Oh, good. The
amphitheater made money. But let me go back to why I thought the amphitheater was a good idea at the time. Because it's not our money paying. It's the bonds. The debt on the amphitheater is being paid for through a revenue sharing agreement with the Turning Stone, with the Oneida Indian Casino. So, and because that was set up as a part of the deal with the state of New York. So County Executive Mahoney at the time, really kind of brilliantly, they had to use it in such a manner. I don't think it had to be specific to an amphitheater, but it was something that could generate travel and tourism, all the above. So, and right now, the revenues that are coming in from the revenue sharing agreement with the Oneida Nation is more than enough to pay the annual debt service on the amphitheater. Where am I going with this? If you didn't really have to pay to build it and you're having concerts there 20 or 25 a year, you better make money. So very different than the aquarium where we have to pay for it. It's right out of our general fund money that we're shelling out 85 million. Now, I got to bounce back to one thing that the county executive would argue with me on this. It is fund balance. Fund balance is at a record high by double. We have already allocated the $85 million out of fund balance over the two budgets that it was proposed and passed. That was the 2021 budget and the 2022 budget. And yeah, was it 2022 and 2020? No, it's 2021, 2022. But with that being said, you know, the fund balance is still nearly double what it ever been. It normally hovered around 100 million. We're probably going to close the books in the 170 million range. We're almost at that number, but not quite there yet. I'm just closing the books. So my point is, and the county executive will say, well, we spent the 85 million because we could, because we had it. You buy a nice car when you have the ability to buy a nice car. So he bought an aquarium because the county taxpayers could afford it. But it still allows you return on your investment. On the aquarium side, if you had to be, or excuse me, on the amphitheater side, if you had to be paying that debt service, and by the way, the amphitheater was about half the cost of the aquarium. But if you had to pay that debt service, you wouldn't be making money. But this year we did, so that's good. And I'm sure I'll go to the aquarium and I'll love it. I've been to the amphitheater for multiple shows. I love it. I mean, it is fun to have nice things in our town.
Yeah, but I would say that CSEA would make a different argument about where the fund balance money should be spent, and that the county rolls of employees are at a record low as well. And is that true? Is what CSEA is saying about employee payroll? Have we recovered from the pandemic or no?
We haven't recovered at the pace of inflation. There are raises. The contract isn't what CSE would like it to be. It's not what I'd like it to be either, because we can have both. This is, and the county executive has said this, and it's one of the things I agree with him on. I don't know how CSA contract negotiations are going, or any of the sheriff's unions or any of that. I'm not privy to be. I'm on the backside of all those things. But we can have both. Our employees can and should be paid fairly, and we can afford an aquarium. Bad investment in the aquarium, good investment in your employees, but we still can afford both of them at this moment. And if things go sideways,
right.
Look, and we've seen it, you still want to keep a healthy fund balance. So if things go sideways, we can survive and deliver the services that the county taxpayers deserve. But this is a balancing act. But if we do it right, we can have both. I just hope they do.
Yeah, and then there another recent controversy this year is the closing of Jamesville, and or the supposed closing of Jamesville, because we just heard in the news this week that after a rush to have a vote to close Jamesville, a denial of the sitting sheriff who wanted a study and time to study it. We had to have this vote to close it. We are now finding out that no, it's not going to close right away. It may take over a year just to do the investments in the downtown jail. And so why was this rush to have this vote, and why was the sitting sheriff kind of ignored in the process?
Yeah, that's another. Look, I'm going to criticize both Democrats and Republicans in this matter, and here's why. Democrats were very, there were some very progressive Democrats who were very supportive of bail reform in keeping nonviolent offenders, et cetera, trying to keep jails empty of so then when the Republicans go to close a jail, we can't criticize them for it and say, wait, we don't want anybody in the jails, but we don't want you to keep closing them either. I think it's hypocritical. So the progressive side of our party needs to be careful at their criticism. However, from a financial perspective, bail reform has worked because it's costing less for incarceration right now because there's less people in jail. Crime stats can be crime stats, and I don't know. Depending on who you talk, figures lie and liars figure, depending on who you talk to on whether crime is up or down with regard to bail reform. But that was where I'm going with this. Is now let's fast forward to Janesville. So now the Republican administration wants to close it. The Democrats are pushing back and saying no way. I just believe that Sheriff Shelley should have a fair and ample opportunity to evaluate. He might come up with the same conclusion that they do, but why not give him the opportunity to? And the interesting thing too is the timing of this is interesting too. In October, so there was a campaign, a year-long campaign for sheriff. Never once did I hear either candidate talk about closing Janesville. The budget was passed in October. It included spending money to keep Janesville open. Sheriff Shelley wins. In December, the county executive and exiting sheriff say, we're closing it because we have to save money. 2 months ago, which we actually hadn't even started technically taxing for it because it was a 2023 budget year that passed in October of 2022. But in October of 2022, you passed a budget that included paying for it. Then after the election, you decided with the outgoing sheriff in December and said, we've been talking about this for a year. Never once did I hear about it on a campaign trail for a year. And I paid pretty close attention to that sheriff's race. So it's not a genuine argument to say we have to close Janesville to save money and it's because of bail reform. We're going to blame the Democrats, or Democrats should take credit, depending on who you're talking to, because of the time. October to December is not, it just doesn't pass the smell test. Now, should it be open or closed? I don't know. I'm not in that business. I can tell you what the cost of that business are, but let's let Sheriff Shelley have a fair, ample time to figure it out and move forward. Now, in the most recent delay, I think the county executive got surprised, maybe is the right word, but the construction at not even construction, the renovations and upkeep, I believe the reason for the delay, I think they're replacing windows. In the area where they're replacing the windows, you can't use those cells, the incarceration cells, obviously. And as such, it minimizes the amount of capacity. And so now the Justice Center doesn't have the capacity to house the Janesville residents. Once again, you would have thought you would have known in your December press conference that you were replacing windows in April, but I don't know. I wasn't in those conversations, so it doesn't pass the smell test for me right now.
And I do think that that's what the Democratic legislators were saying. I know some Democrats are reflexively against anything the county exec wants, and I'm not one of those either. Even though I've been accused of that. I'm actually a proponent of bail reform. I think it's good that we're closing a jail if it's the right time to do it. But again, it was about having respect for the office of sheriff, which was in charge of it. And then not on top of closing the jail, they're hiring the guy that the sheriff beat in a job that was created for public safety, which seemed to be only there to buttress the plan of closing the jail. And yet all the incoming sheriff wanted was time and discussion, and maybe this would have come out during that this delay that ended up being inevitable. We would have been able to do some logistical looking at it over a year instead of over 2 months. And but
and I also heard, now this was 4 years ago, but when the county executive and I were on the campaign trail at the same time, obviously me against my opponent and he against his, but many times the county executives say when asked about crime in the county or what are you going to do about the speeding or whatever, his answer always is, I don't have a police department. I'm not in charge of the crime, and I'm not in charge of the police and the speeding, and I don't have a police department. Now, lo and behold, 2 months ago, he owns a jail and can control what the sheriff's department is doing. It's a little crazy to me.
Well, bail reform has been one of those things that the statewide Republicans have tried to use as a boogeyman, because and the statistics have borne it out that the many times the people that are committing further crimes were being let out on judges' discretion, not having to do with
But this is one thing. I actually, I don't want to say I don't want to talk about the merits of bail reform, but
no.
what I do want to touch on this is we had elected people, the New York State Legislature, telling elected judges how to run their courtrooms. They took discretion away from a fellow elected official that I'm not sure a legislator in Albany, a legislator in Albany has any idea of what a judge is doing, whether it's in Madison County or Manhattan or Buffalo. I think we have to trust our elected judges that they're doing their job. We have to let the system work. And if they're not doing their job, we'd like to believe that when you don't do your job, you don't get reelected. I would hope. And now the judges sit in 10-year terms and 14-year terms, and we see all that. But the real crux of my issue with bail reform is that a lot of judges said this is not a good thing, and it was because it was taking away some of their discretion, and it was a discretionary idea on the legislature to take away discretion from the judges. Once again, seems a little hypocritical to me.
What I will agree with you is that neither one of us are state legislators or judges or experts on crime. Exactly. So, I just hate when things are being taken out of context. And
sure. No question. And the boogeyman syndrome that you referred to, look, it dominated the campaign for Congress last year, and Congress
had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it. So that's a political, that's what happens in political campaigns. Is throw anything at the wall and see what sticks.
So we're getting towards the end of when I'd like to have these. I can talk to you all day, and we have over beers many times. But what I always like to end on the final question. What haven't we brought up? What is something that you want the voters or the citizens of Onondaga County to know about your race, about you, about whatever?
So I think, I guess I would say this. I don't know if this is a benefit or a fault of my personality and my election histories. I'm not good at issuing press releases, attacking fellow elected officials, in this case, the county executive, the Republican county executive, or the Republican county legislators, because I don't think that's right. I mean, we have our disagreements face to face or and try to hash things out and do it. I want people to know we are doing our job here in county government. I have great staff. I'm here every day. I joke with people when someone's like, "Oh, you're there every day. You're supposed to be there every day." Of course, but it's, this is a full-time job. I treat it full-time. I'm here full-time. As a matter of fact, one thing I didn't mention was, I spent over 20 years in the insurance business in the private sector. And as a part of county government, I had to leave, I had to take a full-time job. I couldn't have outside income, I guess, where I'm going. So I sold a piece of my heart, the Masterpole Murphy Agency was, I was a partner with my two brothers. Now those two bought me out. My point is I'm very committed to this job. We do a very good job. If you don't see a headline that says Comptroller Masterpole attacks County Executive McMahon on, X issue, it doesn't mean that A, it didn't happen, or B, that it should have happened. There are, we're both on the 14th floor of the Civic Center. I see the county executive nearly every day, at least a couple times a week, and passing or crossing. I'm at the meetings, or one of my deputies is, or my chief of staff. We have really done our job, and I don't take it lightly at all. This is a serious position. It's a big position. I enjoy it. I want to stay here for 4 more years. So this is why I'm running for re-election. And I guess that's the message, is just because you didn't read it at the top of Syracuse.com doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Well, Marty, you're an asset to our community. You've been a great comptroller for the last 4 years. Yeah, you've also been a great friend, and I appreciate you coming on Zoom with Czarny every year, kind of giving us an update on the fiscal health of the county. And I wish you the best in this campaign, and of course, I hope I'm announcing your name in a few months as well. So
thank you. I hope so too.
And that was my interview with Marty Masterpole, Onondaga County Comptroller. He will be on the ballot this fall running for re-election on the Democratic and Conservative Party lines. Check out his website and other information in the show notes. And this week, we are still in petition week, and we'll find out next Tuesday where our primaries are, and that's what my commissioner in the car will be about next Tuesday. The weekly wonk, I have the town of Salina up right now, and town of Camillus is coming this weekend. And my next Zoom with Czarny will be with Bill Kinney. He's running for Onondaga County Executive. He'll be the top of the ticket this fall, and it'll be good to hear from him about how he plans to win and how and what his vision for our county is. So enjoy. Bye-bye.